After losing my software job and moving into my uncle's old cottage, I thought I'd hit the lowest point. That was until the neighborhood association blocked the only road leading to my home. Turns out, I was living inside a gated community I never agreed to, and the gatekeeper was a retired history teacher who loved handing out fines. She found reasons to ticket me for everything, from the way I display my mailbox to how I showed patriotism. It was like getting detention from someone stuck in school mode forever. But here's the kicker. While she was busy quoting community rules, she overlooked one tiny detail. The road they shut down wasn't theirs to block. And after digging through some old papers, I was about to show them what real ownership meant. It all began 6 months after I lost my tech job in Seattle. I had built an app that flagged security leaks, but when it exposed a major company's flaws, I was blacklisted industry-wide. My divorce was finalized, savings dwindled, and the cabin I inherited from my uncle seemed like my only option while I regrouped. The cottage sat on the edge of Lakewood Heights, a small community of about 40 homes built around the lake over the last 2 decades. My uncle had owned the land since the 60s, long before any neighborhood group formed. One afternoon, as I was staring at a new no-entry sign taped across the single road leading to my place, a woman approached my car. She wore a stiff blazer and thick glasses that made her eyes look huge. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and she carried a clipboard so heavy it looked like a thick book. Everything about her screamed, ex-principal. "Excuse me," she said in that sharp tone teachers use before a lecture. "I'm Barbara Smith, president of the Lakewood Heights Neighborhood Association. You can't park here. This road is community property and unauthorized vehicles aren't allowed." I tried to be polite, explaining that my uncle had owned the cabin for decades, that I had the deed, and even showed her the tax papers sent to me in Seattle. She barely glanced at them before launching into a rehearsed speech about community rules. "Ownership doesn't mean unlimited access," she said firmly. "This road serves the whole community, and we have regulations." Barbara pulled out a ticket book and started writing. Then she paused, adjusted her glasses, and continued. "Your flag is also out of compliance. Our guidelines say personal flags must be smaller than the community flag." I looked at the small flag hanging on my porch, then at the giant neighborhood banner at the entrance. The numbers didn't add up, but I didn't want to argue on my first day here. I took the ticket for the flag and asked where I could find the full rules. Barbara smiled in a way that reminded me of a teacher enjoying catching students off guard. "Every new resident gets a handbook after registering with the association," she said. "Since your uncle never registered, you'll have to start from scratch." She handed me a packet thicker than most novels. That evening, I read through the handbook. The rules were absurdly detailed. Everything from grass height, paint colors, mailbox design, even how cars should be parked. What struck me most was how many rules seemed created just to control people's lives. There were fines for showing trash cans, having wrong decorations, even for plant types. Many rules contradicted each other, and some looked newly added. The original neighborhood agreements were much simpler. I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. My uncle lived here over 50 years without a word about these rules, and I'd never seen any no-entry signs before. I decided to check the county records the next day. Meanwhile, 2 nights in a row, I saw a car slowly circling near my cabin, but disappearing when I looked. It felt like I was being watched. The next morning, I found another ticket taped to my door, this time for my mailbox height. I measured it. It was 36 inches, exactly what I thought was right. But the rule said between 36 and 42 inches, measured oddly from the top, making mine wrong. I fixed it with dirt and a shovel. Barbara showed up again, clipboard in hand, watching like a strict teacher checking homework. "Better," she said, but then pointed out my car was parked wrong, not parallel to the property line. I argued my driveway was straight, but she pulled out a tool and proved it was angled slightly with the land. "Your uncle's driveway was grandfathered in," she said, "but proper parking has been required since 2017. Over the next 2 weeks, I got fined for 7 more things. A garden statue, porch light brightness, having wildflowers my uncle planted 40 years ago, not cultivated enough for the association's tastes." Each ticket came with a personal visit and a lecture from Barbara about how rules bring order. What annoyed me wasn't the money. I was nearly broke, but how she talked down to me like a child who couldn't understand simple rules. One time I pointed out her own yard had violations. Her face tightened, then she snapped, "I'm president. I know which rules apply to whom." By week 2, I paid almost $3,000 in fines and started watching for Barbara's car before going outside. I researched neighborhood laws online and found homeowners associations have limits, and those limits seemed crossed here. Then I found a weird detail. One rule Barbara cited was changed just 3 months ago. The update banned any decorations not approved by the board, but no one told residents or held a vote as required. When I asked neighbors, most had no idea. I went to the next board meeting, hoping to talk openly. The community center was packed with older residents who knew each other well. When it was my turn, I calmly explained my struggles and asked why some rules seemed unfair, like fining me for my uncle's wildflowers planted before the association even existed. Barbara shot back fast. Grandfathered rules only apply to buildings, not landscaping. Your uncle maintained the property well. If you're struggling, you need guidance. Many residents nodded, and I felt like a kid getting scolded in front of the class. After the meeting, a younger woman named Carla approached me quietly. She worked as a paralegal and said Barbara had grown stricter lately, trying to make her mark before retirement. "Most just pay the fines," Carla said. "Fighting back is harder. What she's doing to you feels personal." The next morning, Frank, a board member, knocked on my door. He said Barbara could be intense, but meant well, and suggested I ease the tension by cooperating, fix violations bit by bit, volunteer, and show I was a team player. I spent the week repainting my mailbox, replacing wildflowers with approved shrubs, and getting a smaller flag. Frank checked in twice, encouraging me and saying Barbara had noticed my efforts. Still, I felt watched. Neighbors' curtains twitched whenever I stepped outside. The same jogger passed regularly during my yard work. Then came the betrayal. One morning, I found a letter accusing me of using power tools after dark. But I hadn't. The complaint had details only someone closely watching could know. I called Frank. After a long pause, he said maybe it was a mistake. Then I remembered he'd been at my cabin the night before when I talked about organizing tools, even though I hadn't started. It hit me. Frank was reporting to Barbara from the start. His friendliness was a cover for spying. When I confronted him, he admitted it. Barbara asked me to watch. I can't afford to cross her. I reached out to neighbors for support, but they sympathized, then backed away. "Barbara's good for property values," one said. "I don't want trouble," said another. Some privately found the rules harsh, but feared speaking up. I was alone. That night, staring at the lake my uncle loved, I realized this was bigger than rules or politics. It was control, how fear and gossip turn neighbors into informants. No matter what I did, it wouldn't be enough. Barbara's real goal was power. The next morning, I woke to workers blocking the road with a barrier, supervised by Barbara. A sign said the bridge was closed for safety inspection, but no engineers checked it. Only Barbara and Frank, who declared it unsafe without proof. My cabin was now reachable only by a 3-mile hike or kayak. I couldn't get to job interviews. Deliveries stopped. Groceries became a trek. My internet faltered. Contracts fell through. I lost weight hauling supplies through rough terrain. I knew the bridge was safe. My uncle built it carefully decades ago. But Barbara's safety committee was just her and Frank. After 10 days, the community called a meeting. Barbara gave her usual speech. When I spoke up about the lack of inspection and suspicious timing, I lost my temper and shouted, "Do you want a neighborhood or a prison?" The room went silent. Barbara responded calmly, but I saw regret, a crack in her armor. Later, I learned she'd survived a previous board revolt, which made her see any challenge as a threat. The crowd sided with her, and I was left isolated.